Joining me now, three of the best political analysts in the country and friends all. Republican strategist Ed Rollins, Ed also former White House political director, and New York Daily News columnist, Pulitzer Prize winning Michael Goodwin, and syndicated columnist Miguel Perez, and good guy as well. Miguel, what in the world is going on? It doesn't look like the folks in Iowa have chosen a winner yet. It looks like it's close. And to hear all the savants and pundits, they're lamenting the idea there isn't a clear winner.
I am very excited about Mike Huckabee. I like him. I'm surprised by how well he's doing. I think that there is hope for the Republican Party after all.
You're excited as well? Michael, let's start with you.
Well, it is close in both contests to both Republicans and Democrats. You've got a three-way race in the Democratic Party for the lead in Iowa. And the Republicans, basically it's Romney and Huckabee at the top, Giuliani not too far behind. But it's interesting. I think it's better for democracy when we have crowded fields with a lot of people with different talents, different backgrounds, getting a smattering of votes. It keeps everybody in the game.
And is there in any of this a surprise?
Well, the surprise, I think, not that Iowa always has appealed to someone like Mike Huckabee, and traditionally Iowa has always shaken it up a little bit. I think the critical thing here is we got into a race where everybody thought you had to be either rich or famous in order to compete because of the February 5th. And I think Huckabee's come in with no money, basically reinforced his base. And I think it's also a process of those who did have a lot of money and spent it have not moved forward. There's been a whole series of people stumbling here. And Mike has come right up through the center, and basically his message is having some appeal at a critical point.
Rudy Giuliani, one of the best finance candidates, on the very day of the Republican debate, announced that there was some question being raised by Politico.com about the way in which money used for his security was accounted for in the city budget. What do you think?
I don't think the question is about money being used for security. The mayor certainly has a right to be secure, and his spouse has a right to be secure. But while his wife was in Los Angeles being protected by police, his girlfriend was driving around the Hamptons with police protection. And I think those are little things that people understand. And I think particularly after Carrick and his girlfriend and all the rest of it, I think little ordinary people out in Iowa and South Carolina and what have you don't quite relate to this. They see this as kind of an arrogance of power.
Well, I would agree with you about the ordinary people, but as I always say, there are no little people in America. What do you think, Michael?
Giuliani himself said this is a political hit job designed to open up his personal life, and he's basically right on both counts. But it is, I think, it's a legitimate story about his personal life. I mean, he's the only guy ever to really seek the White House who's been married 3 times, and it was a very messy divorce from wife number 2. In effect,
my gosh! I mean, come on! It's still his personal life, for crying out loud. How does this in any way pertain? I mean, John F. Kennedy, for crying out loud, had 1 wife, and how many affairs?
We don't know. We only knew later.
Yeah, we only knew later. I'm just saying, what standard are we holding here?
Times have changed, though, and I think whether it is right or wrong, this is now part of the vetting process. He's going to have to go through this. He may still win the nomination.
Do you think the story has legs?
Oh, yes.
I don't. What I see here is basically this story coming out of the concern, supposedly, that city money was being spent to guard the mayor while he was visiting his mistress. It's not. It's about pointing out that the mayor had a mistress. That's all it is.
More important, Rudy Giuliani wants to tell you all the good things he did. He wants to tell his side of the story. And some of the statistics aren't quite accurate.
How unlike a politician.
How unlike a politician. Now what's going to occur, though, is the other side. The policemen are going to tell their side of the story. The firemen are going to tell their side of the story. People are going to look hard at his record because that's his great strength. As far as his personal life, it may not be anybody's business, but it's this... I don't want to tell you how I made my millions of dollars a Giuliani partner. I don't want to disclose who those clients were, even though some of them are foreign, some of them may be. You can't have secrecy if you decide you want to run for public.
Those are serious charges.
Far more serious.
Those are most serious.
Far more serious. But he said over and over, he wants to stonewall it. He wants to tell you his side of the story, but he stonewalls it on everything else, and it's just not going to happen.
See, I actually, Lou, in the end, trust the voters to sort this out. I think the job of the media is to provide the information, to push for it, even when it's unpopular. The voters will make their choices.
Michael, you and I love this craft, but the reality is, that we carry a lot of water in this business, journalism, for a lot of politicians who know how the game is played, and we do so and we rationalize it by the public's right to know. Absolutely. There's disclosure. And somehow that never applies to the stuff that really calls for real heavy mental lifting,
you're absolutely
doing
right.
the deep research. Meanwhile, budgets are dropped, and we're doing horse races and
The
personal.
New York Times,
the politics of personal
the New York
destruction. I happen to
Times-
think the Clintons were exactly right about that.
And
by the way, if you think this is a Clinton news network, I can tell you a lot of things about the Clintons I don't like too.
in today's New York Times, they had a story on Giuliani and the money issue we're talking about. They had 6 bylines on it. Now, they're not going to have 6 bylines on a story on the Pentagon budget or on the new situation in Iraq.
Speaking of the Pentagon budget, we got to get back. We got to take a quick break. We're going to come back. We're going to talk about John Murtha and all the problems he's created, Miguel, for some Democratic presidential candidates who now are on the wrong side of illegal immigration and maybe the war on Iraq. But first, coming up at the top of the hour, a special edition of Anderson Cooper 360. Anderson tonight, reporting from Rochester, New Hampshire. Anderson?
Yeah, Lou, thanks very much. Coming up on this special 8 o'clock edition of 360, we are live from the scene here of the hostage drama where much of the nation's attention has been focused all day long. The reason, of course, is because of this man, Lee Eisenberg, who at around 1 o'clock today walked into a Hillary Clinton campaign office, said he had a bomb strapped to his waist, and held 4 people hostage. It lasted for about 5 hours. It ended just about a little bit more than an hour ago. It has been a very fluid situation, and clearly there are a lot of questions. We're going to try to get the answers here on the ground. We're also going to bring you the latest on the Sean Taylor murder investigation. 3 people now under arrest in that case. We'll bring you up to speed. That's a special edition of 360 at the top of the hour. Lou?
Anderson, looking forward to it. Thank you very much. Anderson tonight reporting from Rochester, New Hampshire. We'll be back with more on the madness of presidential politics and other madness. We'll be talking with our distinguished panel. Stay with us.
It was another one for the history books, and you can see it again. The CNN YouTube Republican Debate Encore. CNN Saturday night, 8 Eastern.
What's behind the success of companies on the move? RSM McGladrey, experts in accounting, tax, and business consulting. RSM McGladrey is focused on listening to your needs and providing practical solutions to the challenges you face every day. Unique, customized answers for unique, customized success with your accounting, tax, and business consulting issues. Go to rsmmcgladrey.com to learn more from our experts in accounting, tax, and business consulting.
I think the key for me is to let the market tell the story. But you can almost predict what's going to happen around the world by watching where money flows. That is the genius aspect of the global financial markets. I can get the fastest reaction and analysis to that news of anybody out there.
Brian Sullivan, midday anchor on Bloomberg's In Focus, the show that approaches the big issues from all angles. Don't miss In Focus weekdays at noon Eastern only on Bloomberg Television. A wealth of information.
Okay, I got you this. It's a bracelet from Fortunoff. Well, it was made in Valenza. I know I haven't always gotten it right. Okay, never. They had tons of stuff. The lady, she asked about you, what you like. I really thought we nailed it. Always just...
The very best of exactly what you're looking for. Fortunoff, the source.
Tis the season to drop a hint. Lease a BMW 528i for $549 a month, now until November 30th.
CNN Heroes, live Thursday night, 9 Eastern on the networks of CNN.
We're back with our panel. I want to turn to Miguel Perez. Miguel, national correspondents are complaining all over the place, including columnists like yourself, that they can get access to Hillary Clinton. What's going to be the fallout of that?
I fled from a communist country when I was a little kid. They manipulated the media.
Right.
Hillary Clinton's campaign, her staff remind me of that mentality.
Really?
Yeah, it's like planting reporters and making sure that the media, the people basically they have a whole line of defense around her so that
Miguel, there
the
goes your
cameraman.
Christmas basket from Senator Clinton.
Well,
I have to tell you.
what can I tell you? But it's really the effort by some candidates, not just Hillary, to manipulate the press really is an insult to all of our intelligence.
Right.
I mean, all of the American people should really be concerned and defend the right of the press to really question these people.
Michael, what do you think?
I think among the candidates that I've known over the years, Hillary is one of the worst, the most difficult to get to. There's a kind of imperial court around her that protects her. You often see in the newspapers, for example, or on TV, she's never quoted directly. It's a spokesman. It's, whereas most of the other candidates will come out and say it themselves or say it in their own words. Right. There is, and I think that to me is troubling going forward. If she's going to be in the White House, you have to assume this kind of campaign would carry into the White House. So now is the time to demand that she become more accessible.
The media needs to demand. I mean, the bottom line is this is all part of the process, and as a political strategist, I always try to protect my candidates, but at the end of the day, you also want to have that access. You want to have that ability to communicate, and if you don't give them access at all times, sooner or later they'll start cutting you off. They'll start not running their stories, and at the end of the day, you're the one that loses out, and the public loses out.
I got to tell you, a candidate doesn't, at least shouldn't give you the respect of a response. Right. I don't care what they have to say about anything, and I don't think that. Well, first of all, the audience of this broadcast thinks pretty much that they have very little to say of substance anyway, and then there's a great deal of distrust of these candidates. That distrust is mounting, I think, because of something that happened today. That's Congressman John Murtha, who's been a harsh and absolutely steadfast critic of the Bush administration and the conduct of the war in Iraq, saying, Miguel, he thinks the surge strategy may be working now.
And if Murtha says it, you got to believe it. I mean, militarily, what he's saying is that it's working militarily. It's not working politically. And that's what all of us have been saying all along. It's like unless the Iraqi people, Iraqi leaders do something, it's all worthless.
Well, see, I'm one of those people who's not been saying it because I'm not smart enough to figure out how the military can drive a political solution. I can understand how the military can conduct military operations, that is, war, but I do not believe that the military was ever designed for a political objective.
But they were sent there with the idea that they were buying time so that the Iraqis could get their act together.
What are the implications, Michael, for these Democratic candidates? This has got to create huge problems for these Democratic candidates.
Absolutely, and I'm sure there are other members of the House, in particular Democrats in the House, who feel the same way. It's very hard to deny the facts, and that's what Nancy Pelosi and Harry Reid have to keep doing, is deny the facts.
And today, what some thought might be a compromise between the White House and the Democratic leadership on war funding collapsed. And now the leadership on Capitol Hill is confronted with Murtha's position.
They will pay a big price. If the surge did not work, which I think most Democrats were hoping that it wouldn't work so that they could basically have their withdrawal failure, at this point it is working. And everybody has said that. Independent viewers have said it. And I think that at the end of the day, the soldiers can make the political system. They can create a safer environment. And it's up to the Iraqi people if they want to basically make their government go and function. But we've done our job, and these kids that have gone there and paid a big price have done their job, and they ought to be applauded, and they ought to be funded till we're finished.
Well, one of the other things you see, Lou, too, is lots of stories now about people coming back to Iraq, the middle class, those who left, coming back to Iraq. Things are clearly changing there, which is not in the Democratic playbook.
Baghdad.
Yes,
Baghdad.
Right. That's where most of them left from. So that's not what the Democrats want to see. So they've got to figure out a new plan, how they're going to fight against the war while accepting the facts.
And the Democrats, just to conclude with the Republicans on this thing, the Democrats struggling with the issue of illegal immigration, border security, the war in Iraq. The Republicans don't seem to have a clue about anything.
Do you remember Michael Jackson when he used to do that dance and it looked like he was moving forward, but he was actually moving backwards? Or the moonwalk, is that what it was called? That's what they remind me of.
Don't you know I'm a very hip hop culture kind of guy?
I didn't know that about you.
Michael Jackson's not hip anymore.
Well, that explains it because, as my wife says,
I think the dilemma Republicans have is they're still fearful of breaking from Bush totally. And the country has broken from Bush totally. Yeah. And the country's not going to create a third term for any Republican for Bush. And so someone's got to break away, start talking about things that matter to ordinary people.
Yeah, I think the people are moving well ahead of these two parties right now. Hallelujah. Miguel, thank you very much. Miguel Perez, Michael Goodwin, Ed Rollins, gentlemen, thank you. Have a great weekend. Coming up next, we'll have some more of your thoughts. Stay with us. We're coming right back.